Hey guys, it's Alec Torelli. I'm out here at the Encore in Vegas, and I'm really excited, especially after a long summer of playing tournaments. I'm very excited to play in Boston Jimmy's high-stakes cash game here at the Wynn. It is a 25, 50, 100 no-limit hold'em game, 10K minimum buy-in. There is some stand-up game and crazy bounties as well that are played throughout the game, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I love playing at the Encore. Jimmy runs an incredible game. He's an amazing game host, and I think it's the coolest place to play in Vegas. It's one of the best games in Vegas. It's so entertaining, such a interesting, eclectic cast of characters. There's a lot of people that are new to me that I haven't played with before, so I'm excited for that and the challenge, and I'll take you with me around getting ready for the game, and I'm really excited to go into battle. Hopefully I get some good hands and run it up, of course, and let's go.
Before we kick off the action, you'll see these little knit buttons in front of every player. Whenever you see one of those, it means that they are still, quote, standing in the stand-up game. We don't actually stand up in the stand-up game just because it's kind of annoying and people don't like to do it, but we love to actually play the stand-up game. So for those of you that don't know how the stand-up game works, it's everyone gets a button, or traditionally everybody would stand up. When you win a pot, you would then sit down, or if you're playing with a button, you're not actually standing, you give that button back to the dealer. In order to qualify to win the hand, you have to show your cards. If you don't show your cards, you don't actually get to sit down. And basically what happens is the last one standing, the last one to win a pot, has to pay everyone else a bounty. Now that bounty depends on the size of the game. In our game, it's actually unique. The loser puts $1,500 in the middle, and then we play a bomb pot. So they don't actually lose $1,500 because they have a chance of winning the bomb pot, but they only have a 1 in 9 chance of winning the bomb pot. So they basically lose $1,500. So it's a big, big penalty in a 50-100 game to lose $1,500, and so it creates a ton of action. The stand-up game is very, very fun, and it's awesome. So anyway, when you see that button, it means that I am still standing, so to speak. I still have to win a pot, and you basically assume that in almost every hand, there's multiple players that have buttons, unless I mention otherwise. So anyway, let's dive in. Hand number 1, Boston Jimmy opens in third position to 300. The button calls. I call in the big blind with 7-5 of clubs. So far, pretty standard. Flop comes king 6-4, 2 spades, 1 club. I check. Jimmy bets 700. Button folds. I opt to just call. Sometimes I'll be raising here, especially with this hand, backdoor clubs, but I opt to just call. Turns a king, and now I opt to lead here. I think this is a pretty good card. I could have a lot of king X calling the flop. It's kind of like the most likely hand I have unless I have a draw. And if he has air, he's just going to fold this turn. It's a pretty tough spot for him. So actually, I think this works out pretty well. Instead of raising the flop into the unknown, risking a lot of money, I could just bet the turn, bet smaller. I also set my price, so if he does call me with a king or a pair or a better draw, I'm only risking 800 instead of having to check fold my hand. So I actually really like this play. Jimmy calls, which of course I don't like. The river comes a jack, and at this point I'm waving the flag. I don't feel like he's going to fold, especially in the stand-up game. And he bets 400. Unfortunately, I fold. The good news is I get to see his cards, and I see that he has king 10. So the bet would not have worked. I'm glad I checked, and we're on to the next one. Second hand, villain raises to 300. I call in the small blind with ace 7 of hearts. This is probably normally a 3-bet, but in the stand-up game, I feel like people fold a lot less, and they 4-bet more often, and I didn't really know anything about this guy. I just sort of sat down. It's a bunch of new characters. So I call, see what happens. The big blind calls. The flop is ace 7-4 rainbow. Obviously, I flopped gin. I check, big blind checks. The raiser now bets 500. I felt like he had it, so I make it 1.3K. I think sometimes I could just call here. I also think raising kind of looks weaker. Like when I call with someone behind me, it really looks like I have an ace. So it's really hard to get bluffed on future streets, whereas when I'm raising, I could just be bluffing. So that's one thing I always like to tell my clients, like, you make money by having your hand look like the opposite of what it is. And when you have a really strong hand, you want to make it look like you could be bluffing. And so it looks more bluffy if I raise, especially on a rainbow board when most people are only raising here with like 2-pair plus. So there's a little bit of leveling. Anyway, the big blind folds, the villain calls, which is great. Turn comes to 10 with 2 clubs. I think in these spots, it really just depends on your read. If you feel like they have an ace and they're not going to fold, you want to bet. If you feel like they might be floating, you want to check. If you feel like they have an ace and they're going to fold, you want to bet small. So there's really a lot of ways you can go. You could run this through a solver, but I'm much more inclined to just go with what I think in the moment. That's kind of how I think about games and situations and players in my reads. So I felt like he had an ace and he's not going to fold. So I just shipped it in, a 4.2K. Villain calls and river's a 9. I win. Nice double up, 12K pot. I also get the button to sit down, which is great. Hand number 3 is wild. Don't try this at home. Okay, so there are 3 people left in the stand-up game, and it folds to me in the middle blind. So I'm in the $50 blind. And the player to my left also has a button. So we're kind of getting close to heads up. So if you've played the stand-up game, you'll know that like aggression increases exponentially amongst the players that remain in the stand-up game as the field narrows. So if there's 9 people left and you're in a heads-up pot and you both have a button, it's not really like that compelling to go crazy because you still have a lot of opportunity to win a pot. But when there's 3 people left and you're heads up, one of you is going to win that pot. So then if you lose that pot, then you're heads up to lose 1,500 in the next hand. So it creates a crazy sort of dynamic. Anyway, all this is to say, I limp in the middle blind with 2 6s. He makes it 500, and I think he's going to be super wide here. Like, I limped, so he might be raising any 2. I actually don't know. I haven't played with this guy enough, but in my head, I was thinking he's going to be raising a ton, and of course, he wants to just win the pot. So if he has like 8-5 offsuit, why not just raise to 500? If I fold with like Jack 7 or Jack 5 or Jack 4 or like Queen 3, like he just wins the pot and he only risks 500 and gets to sit down. So anyway, I think he's super wide. I just rock it in 10K. It's kind of like a fun high variance, crazy aggressive play that is fun to do in these private games. And he snap calls, which completely sucks, and I'm totally wrecked. So when he snap calls that fast, I'm either drawing basically dead or it's like ace king. So let's hope we could somehow find a 6. And it's not looking good, Oh my God, what a river. We find it on the river, and he's quite tilted. I get to sit down, scoop a 20K pot, get very lucky. Don't try this at home, but it is fun to make these plays once in a while. All right, hand number 4, we find some finesse in this one. Keep in mind, when you get invited to these games, you have to give action, you have to have fun, you have to play loose, you have to be aggressive, you have to show hands. Otherwise, nobody wants to play with you, especially if you're a pro. So I try and give as much action as possible, and raising 8-7 off is one way to do that. Jimmy calls in the small blind. He has a button, and the big blind calls. So pot is about 1,000. Flop is 10-6 deuce with 2 diamonds. Not great, but when it checks to me, what am I going to do? I have 8 high and a gut shot. So I bet 800. Jimmy calls, which I don't love. Now the big blind makes it 2.2K. Maybe he has 2 pair, like 10-6, or maybe he has a set of 6s or deuces. But a lot of times I think this is just going to be like kind of a backdoor wrap hand. Like people like to raise here with, I don't know, queen jack. Maybe he has a weak 10 and he's just like finding out where he's at. Maybe he has a 6. I guess I could call. I didn't really feel like calling was great with Jimmy behind me, and then he calls, and then what? Like, so I just thought, why not raise? Maybe I rep a set or rep 2 pair or rep an overpair. I also just didn't think anyone had anything, so I'm not always thinking about my hand. I'm just thinking about, like, is everybody strong? Is everybody weak? I felt like 7K was the number.
7,000?
That's what I did. I went for it, and they both fold very quickly, which is awesome. It feels good to get one through and actually have a read go correctly, and I win a nice pot. Really quick, if you want to make better decisions and get real results at the table, check out the Conscious Poker membership. It's helped players like Jason go deep in WSOP circuit events and 8x their investment within a couple weeks. You'll get access to a like-minded community, proven frameworks, and feedback from coaches and myself. Visit consciouspoker.com/member or click the link below, and I'll see you on the inside. All right, this one's wild. Next hand, I have ace 6. We are heads up in the stand-up game with the same guy I just stacked when I had 6s. So I limp again, not really sure what he's going to do this time because the dynamics just changed. And he checks. So far, so good. The flop comes ace queen 6. Like, how beautiful is that? We're heads up in the stand-up game. I limp, and I flop 2 pair. My hand is always good. He never has ace queen, aces or queens. He would have raised pre, of course. So I just pot it. I bet 200, and he calls right away. The turn is a 6. with 2 spades. Can we just stop and take a moment of appreciation for how sick that is? That you actually have the boat here in this spot. Like, I don't even know what to do. Am I supposed to bet? Bet small, hope he raises, check, and then check call, check and check raise? What would you do? I mean, it's a kind of a weird dynamic being heads up at the stand-up game. I don't know if he has much of this board. I don't think he has an ace. He would have raised pre often with that. Maybe he doesn't want to raise because he thinks I'm going to limp 3-bet now that I did it before. Maybe he just has a 6 and I coolered him. Maybe he has a queen and he's not going to fold. Either way, I don't think he's folding for 400, so that's what I fire, just because if he folds and loses, he has to pay 1,500 the next hand. So he's kind of priced in to call in a weird way because of this whole shenanigans with the game. Anyway, he calls. Pot is now 1,500 or so. River's a 5. I don't think he's going to bet necessarily if I check. I think he's going to have something that just like has showdown value, like a queen or maybe king high. Maybe he has an ace. I don't think he's going to bet many hands. If he has a 6, of course he's going to bet, but he's probably going to call or raise if I bet with that hand. Anyway, now you got to consider, like, there's sort of 1,500 dead in the pot because either of us win, the other one has to pay that amount. So I overbet to 3K. I bet twice the pot, which is really the pot in a weird sort of way, if you get what I'm saying. He thinks for a minute and folds, and even though I didn't double up, I'm happy to win the stand-up game. Next hand, I raise in middle position to 300 with ace-jack suited. The cutoff calls. The big blind makes it 1,800. I think he's light here quite a bit. I could call, but then it's likely that the guy behind me calls. I think my hand's reasonable to 4-bet here. I kind of mix this in. Sometimes I'm just going to call with this hand because it's suited. Maybe I would be more likely to 4-bet a hand like ace-jack off as a bluff. But I just felt like my hand plays better as a 4-bet, and I went with it. I like to trust myself in these spots. Cutoff folds, villain calls. Fine. Pot's 9K, 854 rainbow. He checks. I bet 2,600, just a follow-up c-bet, small sizing here. Going to be betting a lot of hands. And he calls. Fine. Turns to 3, rainbow board, he checks. At this point, I don't really think he has something super strong. I think he's going to be floating this flop some of the time. Maybe he has something like ace-5, ace-4, ace-3, something like that will fold to a bet. I also don't let him catch up if he has something like a 7 in his hand or a 6 in his hand. If I am behind, I have quite a few cards I could catch up on. I could hit an ace, I could hit a jack, I could hit a deuce, and maybe I could bluff some rivers as well. So I decided to fire 7K. It just keeps my aggression and keeps the lead in the pot. It makes the hand a lot easier to play as well. He folds, which I'm happy to see. Take down a nice pot. Next hand, I limp under the gun with queens. Limping's kind of a thing in the stand-up game, especially when there's very few people left with buttons. So if there's 3 people or 2 people or 4 people that have a button and everybody else has won a pot, a lot of people limp because you're basically trapping or defending against the remaining players. So it completely changes the dynamic. The gameplay is totally different, I think, especially in the games we play. So anyway, I limp under the gun. Big blind makes it 1.1K. Pretty sizable raise. I could just call, but then it's probably going to go domino and everyone's going to call behind me. So I 3-bet to 3.3K. I think my hand plays well, heads up in position. Very likely to have the best hand. He could be stealing with all sorts of stuff. Folds around to the big blind. He calls. Fine. Flop is king 9-5 with 2 clubs. I have queens with a club, so I think my hand plays pretty well as a check once he checks. Like, this is kind of the perfect hand to check. There's not many overcards that are going to really hurt my hand besides an ace, and I do have a club giving me more equity, so I'm not as worried about a club coming because it increases my equity in the sense that, like, I could hit a backdoor flush as well. I know solvers like to bet in these spots when they have the club in certain situations because they have more equity when they have a club, so it's kind of like, depends on how you think about it. But overall, I just think my hand plays fine as a check. Turn comes a 9. He checks. At this point, I think I'm checking again. I don't get a ton of value here. I certainly can't get 2 streets of value. Like, what am I getting value from? Jacks. I could get 1 street of value from that, but I can get value from that on the river. I also check and make my hand look like ace high. I could pick off some bluffs. I also pot control if he has a king or a 9. I'd avoid getting check raised. Overall, I like checking again. River comes a jack. He bets 4.4K, and let's think this one out.
I only lose to 1 hand, but I feel like you haven't.
Overall, I don't beat much. I'm not sure he's betting a jack for this size. Maybe ace-jack, maybe. I guess it's a prayer, but I lose to a king, I lose to a 9, I lose to like a straight or 5s. I didn't really feel like he had it, so I can't say more than that, but I call. Let's see what happens.
There's only 1 hand.
You narrowed it down to 1 hand?
All that I lose to.
Feels good to make the right call, especially in a big spot on the river, and I win a nice pot. Building up a stack here, about 35K deep. Villain opens to 300 in middle position. I call in the hijack with 7s. Boston Jimmy makes it 1,600 in the small blind. He doesn't have a button, So I think that changes a bit. Like, some people play looser when they don't have a button because they want to rep that they don't have a button. Some people play tighter, but it does play into the situation. He doesn't have to play a pot here, so he's 3-betting out of position. Razor folds, I call. I also don't have a button, so I also don't have to play a pot, so maybe he thinks my hand is stronger too. Again, anyways, some metagame here. Jimmy and I play a lot together, so it's not necessarily going to mean too much. Flop comes 9-7-5, all diamonds. He bets 2K, and I opt to just call in position. Let's see what develops. Turns a 5, Gin card for me. It makes it less likely I have a set, so it's like hard for him to put me on a set when the board pairs, but also I have the board locked if he had something like Ace King, Ace Queen with the diamond. I'm no longer worried about that. He checks. I decide to bet about 2/3. I bet 4,500, and he calls. So far, I'm really liking what I see. Hopefully, he just has an overpair. And can we get a clean river? It comes a 9 of spades. He checks. Sort of clean, sort of not. I'm not too worried that he has a 9 here. I don't know how many 9s he has playing the hand this way. Maybe he has ace 9 and I'm just cooked, or like jack 9 suited, 10-9 suited. That is definitely possible. But I think a lot of the time he's going to have an overpair, right? He's going to have something like aces with a diamond, or aces with no diamond, kings with a diamond, kings with no diamond, queens, jacks, 10s, etc. I think those are much more likely. There's way more possibilities of those hands. Also, I mean, maybe I lose some momentum because it looks like I have a 9. But if you think about it, I don't have that many 9s either. I called the flop and then bet the turn. A lot of times with a 9, I'm going to fold pre, or I'm going to check the turn. So I don't think it looks that likely I have a 9. Certainly doesn't look like I have a full house. The board double paired. So he checks. I like my hand. I think I have to bet here. It's just a matter of size. Like, how much do I think he's going to call? Whatever. There's definitely some history. I go ahead and fire 8K.
8,000.
He thinks for a minute. He does not loving it either.
You are running good, but are you running that good? Maybe you are. Less than 50.
He ultimately makes the call.
7s.
Quite a brutal spot. Not sure he can get away for this one with that strong of a hand. I get lucky, and it's nice to win a big pot. All right, this one is fun. Cutoff makes it 500 with a button. The button calls, and I am in the small blind with ace king off. I know it's not going to look strong here when I 3-bet because it's cutoff button and we all have to win a pot. So it's going to look like I have air, but I actually have ace king, so I'm not sure what people are going to think. But I have one move. You know what it is. I make it 3,500. I size up here. I definitely don't want to make a small raise out of position against 2 people when they are very incentivized to call me and my hand does not look strong at all. So I'm going to make it big. The razor folds and the button calls. So far, I like what I see. I'm definitely likely to be ahead, or at least in good shape. But when the flop comes king, king, 5, I don't really care anymore. I basically flop the nuts. I decide to lead for a small size, 1.5K. Very dry board. I'm going to be betting, I think, 100% here. I'm not sure exactly what a solver would do, but I think I'm going to be betting this flop pretty much all the time. It's kind of hard to run the sims when there's stand-up game and ranges change dramatically, but I'm going to be wanting to bet this flop so often. I'm going to want to bet with a king or aces or any pair or even ace high. Some of my bluffs are going to want to bet too. Basically all my bluffs, even like 10-9 suited is going to want to bet. So I choose a small size, pretty much allowing me to bet everything. The button calls, fine. Turn comes an ace with 2 hearts. What a turn. In some ways, it could be bad if he has something like 7s or a 5 or 8s or 9s, but of course I have the board completely locked. I'm not really sure what's the best way to make my hand look weak. Probably checking. Maybe I could bet, and maybe he thinks I'm bluffing again if I had like a bluff. Like, my bluffs want to bet, but some of my value wants to check. Some of my king X wants to bet. Some of my ace X wants to bet. Some of it wants to check. Really complicated spot. Not in this spot all the time. So it's very unique, especially with the dynamics of the hand, the positions, the players, the history between me and the opponent, the stand-up game. It's a lot going on in this one. I opt to check, see what happens. Going to debate between check call, check raise if he bets, depending on what he bets, my read, how big he bets, etc. But he checks behind. The river's a 5 of diamonds, and pot is about 10,500. Again, this spot could go a bunch of different ways. I could check raise, I could bet big, I could bet small, I could overbet. I think you can make a case for everything. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in a comment below. Like, what would you do in this spot? Always looking to share insights and learn from you guys and your feedback. Anyway, I bet 3,200. I have my reasons. Not going to go too much into it because I play with this guy a bit, but he makes it 8,500 here. And of course, I have one move, right? Like, please have a king. Maybe he checked back with a king. Maybe he's raising a 5. Maybe he's bluffing. I don't know. I don't really care. I basically have the nuts. So I jam 22K. Unfortunately, he folds right away, but win the pot. Grateful for it. And we're on to the next one. This one, we're getting a little frisky. The button makes it 300 with a button. I call in the big blind with 10-8 off. Not a great hand, but he has a button. He's going to be raising a ton, and I like to play pots. Flops 8-7-6 with 2 spades. I check. He bets 400. I call. Pretty standard. Turns a 4 of spades. I kind of like a lead here, sort of, like on this card. I'm not sure I have the best hand to do it with. I do have some blockers to a straight. I have blockers to a flush. I have some equity when called. I think it's overall just a good card for me to lead. I do also deny some equity from overcards, even hands like 9x or 10x or a higher spade. I opt to lead 800. I'll see what happens if he continues and go from there. He calls, pots 3K, rivers a jack of spades. Here, it seems like I should lead again. Oh, I hit my flush. Let's bet. But you got to think to yourself, what worse hands is he going to call with, right? I check call the flop. I led the turn. Now I lead the river. Like, what am I bluffing with? I guess I could be bluffing with like queen 9 of hearts or something. Like, I should be bluffing here some of the time. But I think overall, I'm much more likely to get called by better. And I think if I check, maybe he turns some hands into a bluff, right? Maybe he called the turn with like ace-7 or ace-6 or pair that he wants to turn into a bluff and rep the flush. So I also have a decent hand to check call with. Obviously, if I check, I'm going to be check calling. I check, he bets 2,500. I call. He has ace-8 offsuit with no spades. So I actually timed this one right. He did turn a hand into a bluff. I actually admire this bet. It's a really thoughtful play by him. Most people will just check and try and win at showdown. He definitely went for it, trying to get me to fold a straight or 2-pair or a set, which I really like this play. It's very creative by him. I just happened to have the right hand to call, kind of got lucky, and off to a nice one. A couple more awesome hands to share, but really quick, I have to mention a quick shout out to Phenom Poker. They just launched tournaments and are rolling out guaranteed prize pools too. It's the place I play when I'm grinding online. They have every mixed game you could imagine, and of course, your classic No Limit and Pot Limit Omaha too. It's a super clean interface, there's amazing action, and there's a generous sign-up bonus for you to get started. Just use the code ALEC, A-L-E-C, on your first deposit, and they'll match it 200%. Visit joinphenom, joinphenom.com and get started today. DM me with any questions. I'm happy to help get you onboarded, and I'll see you on the tables. All right, a few more hands here. I raised to 300 with ace queen off in the hijack. Villain 3-bets to 1,300. This is the same guy that I had the 6s against earlier in the session and the ace 6 against. So we definitely have some history. We've been playing quite a few pots together. He did make it a big size. I'm not in love with this, but of course I have to call, and let's take a flop. Queen 8-4 rainbow. I check. He again goes for a big size here, 2,100. I should probably just call, given that he made a big size pre and a big size post. But I got a little bit carried away and decided to go for a raise to 5,100. Again, I think in these spots, people don't really raise these boards, and if they do, they basically have like 8s or nothing, like maybe 4s that called pre, but 4s folds a lot pre. So people just don't really raise these boards. So I actually think it kind of looks bluffy. If I was bluffing with like Jack 10, 10, 9, I'm going to want to raise. So I thought it's good to have some hands here to raise for value as well. If he does have an overpair, I'm probably screwed. Like if I check call flop, check call turn, check call river, I'm going to lose all my money anyway. So I just decided to go for it. Maybe get value from some floats, some bluffs, some worse queens, some jacks, some 10s, some 8x hands. Definitely a lot of worse hands could call. I also sized it small as well, which I would do with all of my hands. He calls, 13K in the pot. Turn comes a 3, bringing 2 spades. I opt to now check. I kind of backtrack against my plan, get a little bit of chicken feet. Not exactly sure if I love this. Maybe I should just continue betting, like bet 4K and continue to tell the story that I'm bluffing or have a set or get value from a queen, king, queen, jack type of hands. Anyway, I check. He bets 6,400. I call. River comes a 6 of diamonds. Nothing really changes throughout the whole hand. I'm basically up against aces or kings, or I'm good. I check. He now shoves 11,400. I don't love this spot at all, but the pot is 26K and he bet 11.4, so it's like, I mean, I'm getting such a good price. What if we have the same hand, right? Maybe as king queen even. I don't think so, but maybe. Of course, I beat bluffs. I don't love this spot. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Like, I don't know. Can I get away? Did I overplay this? Like, would it have mattered? I just check call 3 times. I'm going to lose my stack anyway if he has kings. Anyway, I'm not sure. I call. He shows me the bad news. He has kings. Probably my least favorite hand. It just felt really gross getting it in here, especially when I just felt bad about it. I think that's like an important thing that people don't listen to often enough is like, if you feel a certain way about something, there's usually a reason. And I didn't feel good about doing this. And the fact that he had the kings makes me feel so much worse than if I felt good about it. Sometimes my feelings are wrong, but anyway, I did not love this hand. I lose quite a big pot, and this sucks. All right, we're back in action. I limp under the gun +1. again, during the stand-up, I'm going to be limping a ton here. People limp all the time in all sorts of spots. Everyone pretty much has a button left. Third position makes it 400, the same guy that just had the kings against me and all the history with us throughout the night. And button calls, small blind calls, big blind calls. Over to me, I could just call here, but I'm basically relying on hitting a 7. Like, I'm never going to win this pot unless a 7 comes. So I make it 3,800. My thought was that, like, only the original raiser, the guy to my left, is a concern. Everyone else doesn't really have anything. They would have 3-bet pre or something if they had anything. So my hand also is, like, reasonable. Like, if someone calls, I could still hit a 7. I could still, you know, if I'm heads up post, I could bet the flop and win. You know, I might have the best hand a decent amount of the time. So I'm just hoping to get through this original raiser and then navigate from there. But unfortunately, he makes it 8,800, which really sucks for me. But we are, like, pretty deep, like 40, 50K at this point, and so everyone folds back around to me. I call. I'm not in love with this spot at all. Like, don't try this at home. This is not great. But stand-up game shenanigans, him and I have a lot of history. I'm invited in a private game. I want to give some action and play the hand, so I call. Pot's 19K, queen 8, 6, 2 clubs. I check, and good news for me, he checks behind. At this point, I guess I like it. I mean, obviously, it's better than him betting. Like, if he bets, I'm kind of screwed. So maybe he has ace-king, maybe he has ace-jack, maybe he has, like, ace-4 suited or something, and just missed. Of course, I'm still behind if he's slow playing or has jacks or something. Turn comes a jack, bringing 2 spades, so 2 spades, 2 clubs. Again, I check. At this point, I really only beat ace-king. Hopefully, I'm just praying for a check. Maybe he thinks he has showdown value and he could win. He checks behind, river's a queen, so at this point, I'm kind of liking my hand. Maybe he turned a jack and I'm just, like, screwed. But I check once more, he checks, and I win against ace-king. So overall, great result. Very happy to win to 20K pot out of position in a 4-bet pot against ace-king. Couple more here. Villain raises under the gun. I call in second position with 5s. I posted this hand on my social media, so I appreciate all of your feedback. Definitely follow Alec Torelli. I post a lot of hand reviews on there before they get into this video, and not all my hands get into the videos because it's just a lot to make these. So definitely follow me on X or Instagram. I post all my hands on there. So anyway, I call in second position with 5s. Pretty standard call behind me in, like, cutoff or something. Button calls, mid position calls, big blind calls. We go like 6 ways to the flop, 1900 in the pot. Jack 10-4, 2 hearts. I'm done with the hand. Checks around, but fortunately for me, the turn is a 5. Bringing 2 clubs. So 2 clubs, 2 hearts. The middle blind bets 1K, and the big blind makes it 3K. Now, if I raise here, it looks super strong. I basically never have bluffs. I always have something like, I mean, maybe I have a strong draw, but I'm always, like, committed to the pot. I got a little tricky here and decided to call. My thought was the middle blind original better is likely back raise here if I call. Like, if he has a big draw, he might just bomb it because it's the stand-up game and he thinks I have nothing and the big blind could have, like, top pair and then I could just have a draw, and if he bombs it, there's already whatever 9-10K in the pot. He can just bomb it with, you know, 2 pair or a draw and get it through. Also, I thought if I back raised here, like, he's probably going to fold 2 pair. Like, if he has 5-4 or Jack-4 or 10-4, or, you know, all those hands are possible with the stand-up game. You could have, like, Jack-4 suited or whatever. He might fold those hands if I back raise, but if I call, he's always going to bomb it with those. So I get a lot more value from those hands. I do take a risk that, you know, he just calls and we go 3 raise to the turn and it's a terrible card and I'm wrecked. But I think overall, I like a call here. I think it protects my range and it just makes it really hard to play against me. And I think it really does trap the other players, especially on a clean river. I could win a huge pot if it goes check, check, bet, or check, bet, call, or check, bet, raise, etc. Anyway, he folds. River's a king of clubs. Not a great card, not a terrible card. Hearts missed. It's hard to know what flush draw people have. The straight got there, but I don't really think he has a straight. He probably doesn't have ace queen. Maybe queen 9 got there. He bets 5,500 into about 9K. At this point, I'm not loving it. I do beat bluffs, of course. I beat all the hearts. I do beat, like, hands like 8-9. I beat some missed straight draws. I also beat some hands that decided to bet, like, for 2 pair. Maybe he has king jack, raised the turn for protection. Now he river 2 pair. Maybe he has king 10. Maybe he has jack 10. Maybe he has jack 4, jack 5, whatever. So I don't think I could fold here. I am not loving it. I'm definitely not going to raise. But I call 20K pot. Unfortunately, I get shown the bad news. He has queen 9 off. So this is kind of the bear case for flatting here. If I would have just raised this turn, I would have won the pot. But on the flip side, if I call the turn and the river's a blank, he's going to bluff and I win more money. So it's hard to know, hard not to be results oriented. That's the way poker goes sometimes. But I think overall in the long term, I'm pretty happy with my play. I'm sure you'll let me know in a comment. I appreciate it. Last hand of the night, king 9 with a spade in the big blind, limp under the gun, limp in middle position, small blind calls. I'm in the straddle. I check, pot's 500, queen jack 8 with 2 spades, check, limper bets 400, second limper calls. I call. I wasn't really confident anyone had anything and see what happens. Maybe I could finagle my way through this pot. Turns a queen, it gets checked around. The river's a 3 of clubs, and I really don't think anybody has anything. If they had a queen, they would have bet. I could definitely have a queen overcalling the flop. I don't really have many bluffs. It's kind of one of the very few. So I bet 1.4K, really sizing up here. Nobody looks too interested. They both fold, and I win a nice pot.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. I had a great session. I definitely ran very well, and I think I played decent too, but it's a lot easier when you're running well, and that was a lot of fun. It's like a great combo. It's, I guess, what poker players live for. Play well, you run well, and especially in a big game, it was amazing. I love Jimmy's game. It is incredible. If you're out here in Vegas, you want to play, you come through town, hit me up on social media at Alec Torelli. I'd love to connect and play with you guys, get you a seat or whatever, or alec@consciouspoker.com via email, and I'd love to connect with some of you guys as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comment, which hand was your favorite, and your thoughts on how I played. I definitely think the ace-king hand was very cool. It was very fun. It's cool to like have a very dynamic hand where you actually have something and you kind of like rep a different thing and whatever. That was a very fun, cool spot that doesn't come up often. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe to the channel. More awesome content's coming. I look forward to my next session at Jimmy's game here, and definitely we'll be back soon. I'll be documenting more of this. I also have reels on Alec Torelli at Instagram and X. I put out a lot of reels from the hands I played the day before, and we'll do a tomorrow session as well. So stay tuned for those, just like isolated hand reviews. Those are very, very fun, and a lot of more awesome content's coming. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for the support. Much love. See you guys soon.